A judge just jailed this man for not destroying his pickleball court. This might be one of the most bizarre titles here on this channel because what started as a wealthy Florida homeowner building a guest house and a pickleball court somehow ended with FBI-style arrests, neighborhoods protesting in the street, and a judge ordering a $1 million backyard to be bulldozed into rubble.
A Tampa homeowner got permits to build in his backyard, and he ended up in jail over it. It is a bizarre situation that has captured the attention of attorneys involved on both sides and the neighbors.
Yeah, this is one of those times I just don't quite get the thought process here. So imagine spending years getting permits approved, passing inspections, and building your dream backyard, only to suddenly end up in jail because your neighbors kept fighting the project in court. That's exactly what happened to the businessman named Michael Martin in one of the most absurd legal battles I've seen in a minute, because the crazy part about this is the entire thing started over what basically is a luxury backyard renovation, a guest house, a pool, and a pickleball court. Honestly, just some rich people stuff, but somehow all this escalated into a 5-year legal war involving judges, appeals, demolition orders, protests, and eventually police officers showing up at a millionaire's house to arrest him in front of his family over a civil court dispute. And what's interesting about that is we've covered a lot of civil disputes here on this channel, and normally cops don't really want to get involved in the civil disputes, but they did here. So that's interesting. I mean, we literally covered that mansion squatter case where Tamika Good was squatting inside of a luxury home, and law enforcement was basically kind of like, yeah, this is a civil matter, sorry. Meanwhile, this guy had like 15 officers showing up over a backyard court dispute. But again, all this surrounds a guy by the name of Michael Martin. He lives in Beach Park, one of Tampa's wealthiest neighborhoods. So back in 2017, he bought a neighboring parcel of land near his home. A few years later, he started building a large backyard setup in what included a 2-story guest house, a swimming pool, and a pickleball court. According to Martin and his attorneys, he went through the proper process the entire time. They say that the city approved the permits, city officials reviewed the plans, inspections continued during the construction, and nobody from the city told him that the project was illegal. So from Martin's perspective, he's a homeowner doing exactly what the city told him to do. And I mean, looking at it from his perspective, everything he's claiming is true, then I don't know why he was treated like some reckless developer here, breaking zone laws. Because almost immediately after the construction started, Martin's neighbors, Barbara and Gordon Babbitt, they challenged the project in court. Here they're arguing that these structures block their sunlight and overlook their backyard. So essentially, they're saying it's an eyesore, and these houses are built pretty close together. But they also say that it would hurt their property value and violated old neighborhood restrictions tied to the land itself. And in this image, you can see how close everything is, because they actually share a property line behind their multi-million-dollar mansions. So according to the Babbitts, the construction started just 7 feet from their property line. And I guess somehow all of this just kept escalating instead of anyone stepping in and resolving it like normal people. But what should have been a boring zoning disagreement turned into a multi-year-long courtroom battle involving century-old subdivision maps and judges trying to determine whether the part of the Martin's land was actually legally buildable or not. And that's not even to mention the miles of injunction paperwork at work here, because meanwhile, Martin kept building because, again, the city had already approved everything. So regardless of whether the neighbors technically had a legal argument, most people will hear the situation and think, wait, so the government spent $1 million building it, kept inspecting the property, and then the court stepped in years later and said, actually, none of this should exist? Okay, that's interesting. And I feel like this is where the story turned from, I don't know, a neighborhood dispute to a city failure. Because at this point, you would expect that, you know, someone from the city would step in and go, okay, clearly the situation is way out of control. Let's figure something out here. But apparently not. Instead, this just kept on escalating for years. And the neighbors kept pushing the lawsuit forward, arguing the structures never should have existed at all because the land itself supposedly wasn't legally buildable, whatever that means. Meanwhile, Martin kept insisting the city approved every step of the process and continued inspecting the property even after the lawsuit started. So normally when government agencies screw something up, there's at least some attempt to protect the person who relied on the approval. But here, apparently that didn't happen. Essentially, the city went, yeah, sucks for you, bud. Shouldn't have trusted us. Like, what? Because eventually the case landed in front of Hillsborough County Circuit Judge Christopher Nash, who sided with the neighbors in 2023. And the ruling was brutal. The judge essentially declared the guest house violated the original plat restrictions, city code, and Florida law. then ordered Martin to demolish his entire backyard and essentially restore the land back to the non-buildable condition. Not just modify it, destroy all of it, the guest house, the pool, the pickleball court, all of it, which just sounds like a nightmare scenario. Imagine grinding to be able to build your dream backyard. You go through all the approvals, you buy the extra plot of land to do so, and when the city goes, hey, you can build, don't worry about it, and you invest over $1 million into it, and they go, well, actually, psych, you shouldn't have trusted us. Sorry, bud. Like, what? Bro literally just got rug pulled by the city. And it's like, no, we're not talking about some like DIY backyard shed here. No, this is a very nice structure. Like, what's going on here? Yeah, reports estimate that Martin had already spent way over $1 million on the project, and Martin didn't fold. He basically went, yeah, no. So instead of demolishing the structures, he launched an appeal and did so multiple times, trying to stop the order from taking effect. So his legal team argued that tearing everything down while appeals were still active would permanently destroy his ability to fight the ruling later, which logically does make sense, but also, how much money are these people spending on court? At what point does it make more sense to buy a different property? Like, being tied up in court for years against other rich people does not sound very cheap whatsoever. But I guess the court increasingly saw Martin's refusal to comply as outright defiance. So in April of 2026, after years of appeals and refusing to demolish the property, the court, I guess, finally snapped. So Michael Martin was found in contempt of the court. And suddenly, this was no longer neighborhood drama. This became a guy who is now actually going to jail over a backyard construction project. So according to Martin's daughter, around 15 to 16 law enforcement officers and multiple police vehicles showed up to arrest him for what was ultimately still a civil court matter. Again, this wasn't some criminal fraud or violent crime. The core issue was basically a homeowner got permission from the city to build an add-on to his house. His neighbors were not happy about that and essentially went HOA Karen on him. And then the court went, well, I know the city said this thing, but sorry, you got to tear it all down. So essentially, the judge treated Martin's refusal as an ongoing defiance of the final court order. And in a civil contempt case, judges can actually jail someone until they comply. So one attorney even said Martin technically had the keys to unlock the jailhouse door, meaning he can get out if he just, tore down his pickleball court. But then the story somehow got even more ridiculous because while Martin was in jail, supporters started rallying around him. Neighbors and friends showed up holding signs that said, "Free Michael and fix the system." Even other contractors and developers interviewed locally were saying they'd never seen a case escalate this far before.
He's a dad to some, a neighbor and a friend to others. The signs lining West Shore Boulevard Thursday calling to free Michael Martin. Why did you want to come out?
To support Michael, because I think this whole situation went way too far. He's in jail. He can't post bond unless he waives his rights, which to me makes no sense at all. And we're here to support him.
And I mean, even after sitting in jail for nearly 3 weeks, Michael Martin still refused to completely back down. So when he was finally released, he looked exhausted. He later said that he lost around 12 pounds while locked up, but still insisted the entire ordeal had been worth it because he believed the system failed him. So essentially, it seems like the pickleball court guy got the Vitali treatment in jail because he wouldn't want to demolish his pickleball court. I'm still stuck on the fact that he spent years getting approvals and spending over $1 million building something and then watching city inspectors continue showing up during the construction and suddenly being like, yeah, actually, none of this should exist. Please tear it all down on your dime. Oh, and the $1 million plus that you spent on this, sorry, bud. Like, what? Like, regardless, whether the courts technically made the legally correct decision, the average person looks at this and goes, so the city can just completely ruin your life by approving the wrong thing? Like, what? Like, come on, even, I know this isn't the same county and so on, but you had the TikTok tunnel girl, the woman who made all of her neighbors extremely scared because they were worried their house was gonna cave in because some crazy woman in their neighborhood was digging tunnels under their homes. Apparently it wasn't under their homes, it was just under her own home, but she eventually received the green light to continue doing tunnels. So the TikTok tunnel lady can keep tunneling, but pickleball court guy, he can't keep pickleballing? He has to tear down his pickleball court? Are you serious? But eventually, other courts also denied another emergency challenge, and Martin finally agreed to comply with the demolition order to get out of jail, which means the backyard was doomed. The guest house, the pool, the pickleball court, everything was scheduled to be bulldozed, and reports said the demolition alone would cost about $400,000 on top of what he already spent to build all of it. But Michael's attorney directly said the demolition could cost $800,000. It's just insane. But either way, this is just an absolutely unbelievable amount of money to basically end up back to his original starting point. But even then, like, Martin still wasn't acting like someone who accepted defeat, because right after this was released, he told reporters, "I'm not done fighting. I'm not throwing in the towel." I mean, this entire thing probably could have been avoided years earlier if somebody, or literally anybody, just had stepped in and figured out, you know, a compromise before it escalated into millionaires going at millionaires about a pickleball court. But now that the story started blowing up online, the neighbors just pretty much overnight became public enemy number one, because obviously the internet immediately turned this into evil rich neighbors throws man in jail over pickleball court, especially after the photos of Barbara Babbitt started circulating online alongside of the headlines about a millionaire homeowner losing weight in jail while being forced to bulldoze his own backyard. Dude, she's kind of giving like Devil Wears Prada energy here. I mean, you can't tell me she is not the final boss of HOA Karens. That's like the overlord of like HOA Karens. Report to her. That is the Dawn, the mafia boss, the emperor of HOA Karens is Barbara over here. But I guess the Babbitts and their representatives kept insisting that this wasn't about the backyard dispute at all. According to their side, and I do need to mention their side, this wasn't some petty revenge campaign.
The lawyer for a Tampa couple who asked a judge to throw their neighbor in jail over a guest house says there's more to the story.
Arresting Michael Martin for the construction is a last resort after years of not complying with the judge's order.
Mr. Martin is, quote, a state court loser.
Michael Martin remains in jail tonight, refusing to pay a demolition company hundreds of thousands of dollars to tear down the guest house at his Beach Park home.
Mr. Martin just continues to file frivolous appeal after frivolous appeal.
His neighbors, Barbara and Gordon Babbitt, originally sued Martin, saying despite approvals from the city, the construction is against city code.
So they're arguing the structure fundamentally changed their property and never should have been approved in the first place. And they said the guest house towered over their backyard, blocked sunlight, invaded their privacy, and at one point their representatives even said their family couldn't comfortably use their own pool anymore because of how close and tall the structure was. And from their perspective, this also wasn't some sudden attack on Martin years later either. They claim they warned him early in the process that the project could eventually be ruled illegal if the court sided against him. But according to them, he chose to keep building anyway. And I guess that's an important detail because the internet mostly framed this as guy follows the rules and randomly gets jailed. But I guess the neighbor's side was, no, this became a multi-year long legal battle where he knowingly kept pushing forward despite repeated warnings. So I mean, I can see both sides here. I saw another news story. I think it was like close to the Tunnel Girl area, ironically. Was it? Yeah, okay, I found what I was thinking of. Is it as egregious as this? I don't know. This is like the most diabolical home edition I've seen in my life. It's also just kind of like a hard situation to judge because I haven't been there. I don't really see how everything is. Like, obviously we have this like aerial photo here, and from looking at this aerial photo, it kind of looks like, or well, I'm guessing now that the house that's complaining is the one that's in the top left there. Maybe if it's the one on the right that has the nice pool there, the original house could kind of see in there regardless. At least it looks like that from the aerial view. So I mean, is this case as diabolical as the one that's happening in Virginia? Probably not. But the fact that someone went to jail over not demolishing a pickleball court that the city approved is crazy. That is not something I was expecting to cover in 2026. But other than that, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe, drop a like if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Also, YouTube thinks you'll enjoy this video. Peace.